pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Jeff Renahan.
Bill Carlos, 2nd Ward.
Joe Conti, 3rd Ward.
Joseph Lepore, 5th Ward.
Ann Schurshin, 6th Ward.
Felicia Salvatore, Town Clerk.
Jim Nelson, Attorney for the town.
Danielle Strauch, Attorney for the town.
John Baisley, Town Supervisor. Tonight's agenda is rather large. First thing on the agenda tonight is a public hearing for taxation of solar and the wind farms. And we're going to open this public hearing, we're going to close it and adjourn this public hearing to a later date and re-advertise it because Neil's got quite a bit of work and we think it's going to change the format to the public hearing, so we'll take it and re-advertise it at a later date. We have a motion to open public hearing on Chapter 183.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anybody that would like to discuss anything on Chapter 183? Neil, would you like to say anything about it, or?
When we originally opened the public hearing several months ago, the recommendation was to opt out of the state's tax exemption for solar facilities, although it covers more of the solar facilities. Since that time, the state has actually provided some additional guidance in terms of establishment of pilot programs. And that's actually fairly recent in the past couple of weeks. I've talked to Councilman Carlos several times, and I think that a pilot arrangement is probably the way to go, but we need some time to figure out the valuation, the formula for that.
Okay,
So
thanks.
that's the reason for the adjournment. We'll re-advertise at a later date.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Anybody else like to discuss this public hearing? If not, can we make a motion to close this public hearing?
Motion to close the public hearing?
All those in favor?
Oh, wait, are we going to close or are we going to adjourn it?
We're going to close it.
Close it.
My understanding is that you didn't want to adjourn it because the law is going to be substantially changed, or maybe
I have to
going
re-advertise.
to have to re-advertise.
Motion to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And now we come to the regular town board meeting. Resolutions for tonight is truck weights, limits, noises, and no left turns in relation to Hamburg. Number 3 is coastal assessment, local laws for trucks and weights, noise, and no left turns in the Hamburg. Number 4 is adoption of Town Code Amendment, Chapter 195, truck weight and length, New Hamburg. Number 5, Town Code Amendments, Chapter 139, noise. Number 6, Town Code Amendment, Chapter 195, no left turn, New Hamburg. Number 7, emergency policy, truck weights and lengths, New Hamburg. Number 8, special district budgets. Number 9 is the sale of surplus vehicles. Number 10 is the auction of surplus equipment. Number 11 is Hudson Valley Historical Miniature Model Show and competition to be held. Number 12, accept the retirement of James Normandin in the sewer department, water department. Number 13, appoint Barbara Decker as a police assistant. Number 14, a car wash agreement with Foreman Wash for the police department. Number 15, appoint Taryn Riley a full-time payroll clerk. Number 16, Town Code Amendment zoning map 8492 Creek Road. Number 17, a resolution to accept Hudson Heritage. Number 18, Croft Corners Halloween Parade. Number 19, set a date for public hearing to our Community Development Block Grant. Number 20, a bid award for Manchester Gardens manhole stream relocation. 21, a bid award sanitary sewer pipe cleaning and CCTV inspections. Number 22, Paula's Public House charity event for Mount Haven Animal Rescue fundraiser, October 7th. There's 4 SCs for the night. 1 is Town Code Amendment crosswalks at 51 Fulton Street. Number 2, Marist College Family Weekend Tailgate Party. Number 3, 30-day liquor license for J. Dominick's. And SC4, resignation of Chris Rollison from the police department.
Jay, before you suspend the rules for public comment, it was a little confusing because I think that Bill Carlos did say motion to adjourn again, even though he may not have meant it. So can we just clarify the beginning, that one public hearing
Well, we
I
want
don't
to
think
close.
anybody,
closed?
well, we didn't second his amendment anyway.
Right.
so-
Do we have a motion to close the first public hearing?
Close.
That's what,
Do we have a second?
yeah, I'll second.
All
Thank
in
you.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks,
Motion
Ron.
passes 6-0. Thank you, Felicia. Okay. come to, list all the 27 items. Then a motion to suspend the rules for public comment on any item on the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So anybody like to discuss any item that's on tonight's agenda? Pam?
Actually, I'd really just like to pretty much make a statement. I've been through all the, this is all in regard to the amendment of the traffic rules for New Hamburg. I've been through all the documents. At this point, there is little to say, since you all will vote on these items, regarding amending the traffic regulations in New Hamburg tonight, no matter what. That being said, it's still important to go on the record. First off, the fact that you are voting on this without a final open hearing to allow us to comment on the emergency policy, which is entirely new, is unfair, but so be it. Second, New Hamburg is in complete disagreement with your conclusion that no seeker is in order. The very fact that Associate Town Engineer Sean Crimmins could say that the nearest quote-unquote critical environmental area is 1.5 miles from New Hamburg, upstream on the Wappingers Creek, is frankly astonishing. The hamlet of New Hamburg sits on the Hudson River. The oil tanks of the New Hamburg terminal sit right at the river's edge. So we ask, the Hudson River doesn't qualify as a, quote, critical environmental area. There are more specifics that could be commented on, but I won't, because honestly, what is the point? With one exception. The amendments to the noise regulations. The wording on this has not changed one bit since its initial proposal in June, and it basically hands off jurisdiction on noise level regarding the docked offloading barges to some nebulous, undefined federal entity. That means that despite your having been informed that according to the Coast Guard's own rules, once a vessel, and it doesn't matter what kind of vessel it is, whether it's a pleasure craft, whether it's engaged in intrastate or interstate or international commerce, once it docks, the laws of that locality have jurisdiction. Those are the Coast Guard's own rules. In New Hamburg, that would be the town of Poughkeepsie. What this resolution does, the amendment to this resolution does, is deny us protection under town of Poughkeepsie laws in regard to noise coming from the barges, and provides us with no legal recourse except to sue on our own behalves. If this resolution carries, you will have put New Hamburg in a black hole of non-jurisdiction in regard to unacceptable and illegal, according to town of Poughkeepsie regulations, noise levels coming from dock barges which operate at all hours of the day and night. That is an absolute dereliction of the protections that the residents of New Hamburg ought to be able to count on from their local government. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to make any comments on the first public hearing in New Hamburg? Nobody? If not, close the first public hearing?
It's not a public hearing.
Not a public hearing. Sorry, that was me. That was me, Felicia, sorry. Nobody else to make any comments on any item on the agenda at all? If not, we have a motion to resume the rules.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Jeff?
Whereas the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie having on May 10th, 2017 by Resolution 510-1, number 2 and number 3 of the 2017, determined to hold public hearings on the 7th day of June 2017 regarding local law amendments to Town Code Chapter 195, 46B, C, and D, vehicle and traffic, truck weight and length in New Hamburg area, to Town Code Chapter 139-7, 8, and 9, and 10, noise, interstate carriers, bargers, and vessels, and to Town Code Chapter 195-41, vehicles and traffic, no left turns from Main Street, New Hamburg, to northeast fork of Bridge Street. And whereas on May 10, 2017, this board declares those local law amendments to be unlisted actions under SECRA, found that there were no other involved agencies, and accepted a draft SECRA Short Environmental Assessment Form, EAF Part 1, with narrative statements as annexed hereto, And whereas public hearings on the proposed local laws having been held on June 7, 2017, and July 5, 2017, and this board having considered all of the materials, opinions, and comments received at the public hearing sessions and otherwise regarding these actions, all of which are incorporated herein by reference, and having reviewed and considered the questions in Part 2 of the annexed EAF impact assessment and the annex draft of the EAF Part 3 determination of significance relating to these actions, now therefore be resolved that the EAF Part 3 is accepted, that each of these 11 questions on Part 2 of the EAF impact assessment shall be answered no, and that it shall be executed by the supervisor, and be it further resolved that this board concludes, for the reasons detailed in EAF Part 3 annexed, and the public hearing record and the opinions, documents, and comments otherwise received, that the actions described in the 3 proposed local laws, which are subject to the secret resolution, and each of them being resolutions 920, number 4 of 2017, weight and length, 920, number 5 of 2017, noise, and 920, number 6 of 2017, no left turns, will not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts, and he hereby authorizes the supervisor to execute the negative declaration annexed to the EAF Part 3 and the negative declaration annexed thereto. And the foregoing resolution have been moved and seconded and was adopted as follows. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any questions, comments on this one? Mr. Nelson.
Can I make a comment? This is somewhat repetitive of what we discussed the last time this matter was before you, but as you know, closing seeker is the foundation for taking an action. And the choice is yours to adopt what essentially is a negative declaration, finding there is no substantial adverse environmental impact from adopting these local laws, or not adopting a negative declaration, in which case the seeker review process would continue. In the past, you found that for seeker, this was an unlisted action. You found that there were no other permitting agencies that were involved, no other involved agencies. And you accepted the Part 1 of the seeker 3-part form with a narrative. Basically, it was a description of the action. Attached to your packet are the minutes and the transcription of the court reporter of the 2 public hearing sessions and the documents that were received. This resolution is drafted, and I mean it when I say drafted, to present the potential for a negative declaration, finding that there is no adverse impact. And what that would involve, if this is adopted, is adopting the Part 2 and answering the 11 questions that are attached to it. And in case you can't find it, as you sit here, the Part 2 starts on the 6th page in from the front. And then there is next, also in this packet, a Part 3, which is 41 pages in. I mean, there's the stipulation, the transcripts, there are a lot of documents that you've had for this, but the Part 3, which is the rationale that you could use to support adopting a no-impact vote to the 11 questions on the Part 2, is 41 pages in. So I just want to tell you where the documents are and essentially what the issues are. Pardon me, thank you.
You're welcome. Just to clarify, the critical environmental areas is not something that our engineering department designs. It's a map from the DEC. So I understand your comment with the Hudson River. We may call it critical, but a critical environmental area is an area that's actually physically on a map and identified by the DEC. We don't choose which one is critical.
Jim? If we adopt this now and we find out that it's incorrect, can we unadopt it? Or once we do this, we've got it?
Negative declarations under the regs can be retracted. If a decision was made to take other action that related to this, you would certainly review seeker as to that new action in the future.
And what we're saying then is that the weights and length, the limits on the truck, the noise, et cetera, do not have an adverse environmental impact.
If this is adopted, you're saying that the weights and lengths, the noise amendments, and the no left turn off Main Street down in New Hamburg will not have a significant adverse environmental impact. Yes.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Resolution 3, whereas the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie is party to a March 31st, 2017 so ordered stipulation of settlement and discontinuance in the matter of New Hamburg Terminal Corporation et an. V. The Town of Poughkeepsie et an. The stipulation as filed in the United States District Court of the Southern District of New York in Case 7-15 CV 8182 VB, and whereas Paragraph 5 of the stipulation requires the town to introduce certain local law amendments, and whereas consistent with the stipulation that the town board is considering local law amendments to Town Code 195, vehicle and traffic relating to truck weights, lengths, and emergency exceptions hereto, Town Code Chapter 139, noise relating to interstate motor carriers and barge and vessel noise, and Chapter 195, vehicles and traffic relating to prohibited left turns at Main Street, New Hamburg, to the northeast fork of Bridge Street, and whereas pursuant to Town Code 205, a waterfront consistency review is required for actions that are taken within the coastal area of the town, and whereas a coastal assessment form previously presented to this board for consideration on July 5th, 2017 is annexed, and whereas the town board has considered the 24 consistency standards contained in the annexed Town Code section 205 sub 6, as well as the questions presented in the coastal assessment form, and whereas the town board has this day previously adopted a negative declaration on the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act relating to 3 local law amendments which are described above. And now therefore be it resolved that the supervisor on behalf of the town board is authorized to answer each of the questions on the coastal assessment form as no, and to file a copy of the coastal assessment form as required. So moved.
Second?
We have a motion second. Any questions on this one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie, following a public hearing held on the 7th day of June and the 5th day of July 2017, and having previously by Resolution 510-1 of 2017 declared this action to be an unlisted action pursuant to the New York State Environmental Seeker regulations, and having determined that there are no other involved agencies for the seeker purposes, and having this day by Resolution 920 number 2 of 2017, after considering the actions described in this resolution, truck weight and lengths, Resolution 920 number 5 of 2017, noise, and Resolution 920 number 6 of 2017, no left turn, concluded that none of the actions described in those 3 proposed local law resolutions will result in any significant adverse environmental impact. Adopted Part 3 of the EAF, Determination of Significance, authorized the supervisor to complete Part 2 of the Environmental Assessment Form, Impact Assessment, and has authorized the execution of the negative declaration attached to the EAF. Now, be it enacted that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby amend by local law the Town of Poughkeepsie Code, Chapter 195, entitled Vehicles and Traffic, which amendments relate to the weekly schedule of allowed truck and trailer weight and length limitations in the New Hamburg area in Code Section 19546B and C, trucks over certain weights excluded, and adds a new code section 19546D with the underscored language to be added and the stricken language to be deleted as shown on Exhibit A hereto. Be it further resolved that said local law, if adopted, shall take effect immediately upon filing with the Secretary of State. So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any questions on that one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Be it resolved, Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie, following a public hearing held on the 7th day of June and the 5th day of July 2017, and having previously by Resolution 510 number 1 of 2017 He declared this action to be an unlisted action pursuant to the New York State environmental regulations, and having determined that there are no involved agencies for secret purposes, and having this day by Resolution 920, number 2 of 2017. After considering the actions described in this resolution, noise, Resolution 920, number 4 of 2017, truck weight and lengths, and Resolution number 20, number 6 of 920, number 6 of 2017, no left turn, concluded that none of these actions described in these proposed local law resolutions will result in any significant adverse environmental impact. Adopted Part 3 of the EAF, Determination of Significance, authorized the supervisor to complete Part 2 of the Environmental Assessment Form, Impact Assessment, and authorized the execution of the negative declaration attached to the EAF. Now, be it enacted that the Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie, does hereby amend local law of the Town of Poughkeepsie Code, Chapter 139-7 through 10, noise, which amendments add provisions relating to motor carriers engaged in interstate commerce, barge and vessel noise emissions, and renumber the enforcement and penalty provisions with the underscored language to be added and the stricken language to be deleted as shown in Exhibit A here too. Be it further resolved, that said local law, if adopted, shall take effect immediately upon filing the Secretary of State. So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any questions on that one?
Yeah, Jim, in reading this, to cite a violation, we have to have a decibel level at the nearest upland property line. What does that mean?
The intention of that was to assure that readings not be taken on the water, right up against the property line, but rather to measure them inland. And
So
it was,
from a house, from a property line of a house,
yes, could be.
and not from the property line of the oil terminal?
Coast.
It actually could be.
Uplands means inland, if I understand
Could
that.
be on the street of
Upland
the property. Correct?
Upland, as written here, means up from the water.
Okay.
So
So-
it could be a property line that parallels the street. It could be a property line that is perpendicular to the street. But it just has to be upland, meaning not in the water.
And the decibel level then for the noise emitted from a barge has to match decibel level from a motor carrier.
An interstate motor carrier,
But it's still based on the decibel level of noise.
yes.
So a violation could be registered with a decibel meter at the intersection by the railroad station, for example, and that's a violation that can be cited by our police department.
Yes, you mentioned a decibel meter, and I think that, as you know, there's been a lot of discussion about the ability to regulate barge noise, and oral statements which were made, to people, and I'm not doubting that they were made, about the authority of a town, as opposed to case law, that there is, which is out there. And so my suggestion, I believe, to the chief would be that having an objective measurement standard, as you said, a decibel meter, to pursue any of these, if they're going to be pursued. And by the way, you want to be very careful, because truck noise is federally, statutorily/regulatorily limited, but you have heard that there are various opinions about barge noise.
I understand.
Pardon me,
But,
yes, pardon me, the short answer is yes, use a decibel meter.
okay, and we're using as a line, in terms of the noise level, that of which an interstate motor carrier would be able to do.
Federal interstate motor carrier noise limits, yes.
Okay, so if the barge is tied up to our shore and we measure by decibel the next street over, and it's above that level, then the town police cite the pump operator who's creating the noise on the barge.
Under this code, you could, but as I said before, you want to be careful. You want to make sure that there's a clear violation. You want to make sure that it's objectively measured. You want to make sure that there's probable cause. I mean,
I know all this.
from your
So
career.
basically what will have to happen then is based on the law we're passing, that the chief is going to have a procedure in place. So there has to be a complainant. Somebody's going to have to call up and say, the barge is waking my children up. The cop has to go there. He has to see that that's the truth. Then he has to have a decimal meter and he has to take a reading from the edge of that property line. And if that's above the limit, then the operator of the pump on the barge gets the ticket.
Could, yes.
Could, okay. All right. So there's no exemption here for the barges or for the operation of the pump or for the operations of the trucks. We're just taking the federal standard for noise and using that as a line.
Well, actually, there is, I believe, a clear federal standard, for the trucks. Which
We've had this discussion.
talked about. And we are not purporting or trying to lessen or make more strict those standards that apply to interstate trucks.
So we're going to use that number as the line.
That line is the line for interstate trucks. And it's been reconciled to barges as well, equalized to barges.
Okay.
All right?
All right.
Jim, so I was just a little confused. I thought what you were saying was you meant you couldn't go right to the line of the land next to the Hudson and receive your decibel rating there. You're sort of saying, from a place where maybe a home would be located.
As a practical matter.
And I know it's maybe only be 25 feet, but I just wondered if.
The shore property line.
Yeah. But it's not to go right to the coastline and sort of hold a decibel meter there.
Yeah, I mean, figuratively, not to maybe be in a boat or a canoe or something in the water. The idea was upland. I mean, the concerns that the folks from New Hamburg have are concerns of people who are upland, in, east of the shore.
Okay, great.
I just want to make it clear, that's all.
Yeah, I understand.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Resolution number 6, be resolved that Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie, following a public hearing held on the 7th day of June and the 5th day of July 2017, and have previously by Resolution 510, number 1 of 2017, declared this action to be unlisted action pursuant to New York State Environmental Seeker regulations, have determined that there is no other involved agency of seeker purposes, and having this day by Resolution 920, number 2 of 2017, after considering the actions described in this resolution, no left turn, Resolution 920, number 4 of 2017, truck weights and lengths, Resolution number 20, number 5 of 2017, noise, concluded that none of the actions described in these three proposal local law resolutions will result in any significant adverse environmental impact. Adopted Part 3 of the EAF determination of significance, authorized by the supervisor to complete Part 2 of the environmental assessment form, impact assessment, and authorize the execution of negative declaration attached to the EAF. Now, be enacted that the Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie, does hereby amend local law to the Town of Poughkeepsie Code, Chapter 925, entitled Vehicle and Traffic Specific 195-41, Schedule 6, Prohibited Turns at Intersections, to add the following underlined language to 195-41, Schedule 6, as follows. Name of the street, Main Street, New Hamburg. Direction of travel, northeast. Prohibited turn, left. Hours, all. At the intersection of Bridge Street, Northeast Fork. Be further resolved that this said, the local law, its adopted, shall take effect immediately upon filing with Secretary of State, and so moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any questions on this one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Whereas the town board is partly to a so-ordered stipulation of settlement and discontinuation in the matter of New Hamburg Terminal Corp., ETA, against the town of Poughkeepsie, ETN, and whereas paragraphs 3 and 4 of the stipulation require the town to adopt a procedure for emergency suspension of the limitations of truck and tractor trailer lengths and weights in the town code 195-46B and C. Now therefore be resolved, the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does hereby adopt the annexed emergency policy and procedures. So moved.
Second.
The motion second?
She actually said town board, did that get changed? Or should we, okay, I think she made a mistake, she said the town board is party. Should we make an amendment to say the town of Poughkeepsie is party?
You can make that amendment.
I don't think
As long
we
as the
need an
resolution
amendment to do
reads.
that, right?
Well, the town board governs the town of Poughkeepsie. The resolution you have in front of you reads, whereas the town of Poughkeepsie is a party. So I don't think we.
I just don't want it to be a mistake that we missed, that's why I wanted to bring it up.
We're good then.
Leave it
You
as
want
the
me
way it
to
was.
reread it? I can reread
I
it.
wasn't asking that, if we just want to make a resolution, change the word
Can you
from
reread?
board to.
I can reread it.
Okay.
The first line.
Okay. Whereas the town of Poughkeepsie is party to a so ordered stipulation of settlement and discontinuation in the matter of New Hamburg Terminal Corp. What is it? Et al. Et al.
At and
The town of Poughkeepsie and whereas paragraphs 3 and 4 of that stipulation require the town to adopt a procedure for the emergency suspension of the limitation of truck and tractor trailer lengths and weights in the town code 195-46B and C. Now therefore be resolved that the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does hereby adopt the annexed emergency policy and procedures. So moved.
The motion second.
What did I miss?
Nothing. Can I I have to suggest an amendment, though. And the amendment is, in this agreement, there's a requirement for a phone number. And we have the phone number for the police department, which is going to handle matters in the evening. But I would request that someone move that line 4, paragraph 1 of the emergency procedure be amended to say, delivered to the town supervisor's office, and add, open parentheses, 845-485-3607.
So moved.
Second.
On a question, do we vote on the amendment first, or can I ask the question?
Vote on the amendment and ask the question.
Okay. Attached to the resolution we just read is the emergency policy and procedure, truckways with the emergency policy. This is the grant the exemption. And it says emergency procedure, paragraph 1, during a state, county, or town emergency, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But, and this was the question I tried to ask before, if you go back to resolution 4, emergency exceptions, that's different than the policy. Which is controlling, policy that we do it by, or that section of resolution number 4?
Okay. Your policy is going to be your policy.
Okay, and that answers the
But
question.
if there's an inconsistency, I think you ought to discuss it, and if we can reconcile it, that's what we ought to do.
Okay, to my fellow board members, the inconsistency that I see is at the very last 2 lines of that emergency exception. By the way, I was the one that, remember at the mediation, I was the one that said we have to have an emergency exception. And I think this is a good idea and it has to be there. Town supervisor shall determine the nature, scope, and temporal restrictions or limitations to be in effect during the exception period. An exception from the above restrictions in order to address matters of an emergency nature and/or heating or emergency fuel needs shall not be unreasonably withheld in the event of a request by a town resident. And therein lies the question. This says, during a state, county, or town emergency. Which then, are we going by the procedure, or are we going by what we put in the law?
Okay. That word emergency in paragraph 1 is a small e.
Okay.
Which is distinguished from a declared emergency that a municipality would call, or a state. My assumption is that the supervisor could find that an emergency included an individual entity's need for heating fuel. But
if she
in all
wrote-
seriousness, if you think that it would be clearer, and it obviously would be clearer, to add the language that you mentioned, it could be done by an amendment during a state, county, or town emergency, including situations where, and then you could read that language in, and you could amend it further, if you'd like.
Yeah, the reason the emergency, it was also for a resident that ran out of fuel or school ran out of fuel. So when we talked about the emergency, it was overall emergency.
With
So it's a-
schools, hospitals,
Right.
somebody's had a, I understand that.
Yeah,
and
but
that-
this can't be because grandma ran out of fuel. They've got these trucks with 5 gallons of fuel oil is enough to get anybody through the night. We shouldn't have to waive this, and allow them to run trucks at midnight because grandma forgot to make the phone call.
So you,
They've got courtesy trucks that can deliver 5 gallons of fuel oil.
so Ann, you agree with me, the procedure
It should be
is
the
better during a state, county, or town emergency.
Right, and that's what I was made
Comment.
to believe that
Yeah,
this.
but how can we, if somebody calls town supervisor and say it's an emergency, we don't know how big is the house, or she's got,
So that's not what the goal is set for, because as Ann stated, these companies have small trucks. They have ways of doing this. This emergency is for something happens on the river, we had a massive storm, something along that line, or
Or
if something
like you
happened,
said before, when you had sub-zero days for so long
Yeah.
that we were running out of natural gas and people were told to flip over to their oil burners,
Yeah,
especially.
this is not
the
a
big-
one-on-one.
I mean, we're talking about serious emergencies. I believe that other one was put in there because there may be situations that aren't a declared state or county. So they want to say, any resident could say, this is an emergency, I need the help. But it doesn't necessarily mean we should waive the law.
absolutely.
I agree with Ann, that's why I like, the way we have it done in the policy is the way I
I think
think,
that's correct.
I agree with Ann.
And for
I
what it's
just-
worth,
yeah.
pardon me.
I was just saying, we don't know if it will take a small truck or it will take a large truck. If it's an emergency, it's an emergency.
Yeah, but the average house, Joe, doesn't burn that much oil in one day.
I don't know, I'm not an expert to that, and how much a house burns fuel, but I'm saying, if someone calls as an emergency, it's an emergency. I don't want to get blamed later to say, well, I told you it was an emergency, and you did not supply me enough fuel.
That's the decision we have to make, and I don't, and they're geared for that. They're geared for weather like that with their servicemen and stuff like that.
So Jay, you're happy with the policy procedure, right?
Yes.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
And the amendment
We have the amendment.
was passed as well? Thank you.
The amendment was passed, and then you just passed it as amended. Was everybody happy with that?
Aye.
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 Just wanted to make sure.
Amendment passes 7-0, and the resolution passes 7-0. Be it resolved, the Board of Town of Poughkeepsie is hereby set the 4th day of October, 2017, 7 p.m., Town Hall, Town of Poughkeepsie, 1 Over Rocker Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, as and for the time, date, and place of a public hearing in regard to special district assessment roll, which considers the water districts, sewer district, and drainage districts of the Town of Poughkeepsie. And be it further resolved that the said proposed special district budgets are on file in Town of Poughkeepsie Clerk's office and available for review. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Be it resolved that the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie, having received a communication from Senior Automotive Mechanic Brian Porter of the Auto Center, does declare 2 Ford Taurus police vehicles to be surplus, and does hereby approve the sale of these vehicles to Ulster Community College as follow. 1, 2013 Ford Taurus VIN 1FAHP 2M88DG 201884, mileage 148,435 for the price of $6,500. And 2, 2013 Ford Taurus VIN number 1FAHP 2M8DG 143157, mileage 130,926 for the price of $6,500. Be it further resolved that the town board does authorize the sale of said vehicles for the total sum of $13,000. And be it further resolved that this is a type 2 action under New York State Environmental Quality Review Act and it requires no environmental review. So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any question on this one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Resolution 10, be it resolved that the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does hereby declare the town equipment list on Exhibit A to be surplus and does hereby authorize the sale of those surplus items and such other items as may be specifically designated as surplus.
You get the right one? You get the amended one?
This is the one I got. This is, all right. This is the amended one. Sorry.
No problem. Continue.
The amended one. Be it resolved, the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does hereby declare the town to have equipment to be surplus and does hereby authorize the sale of those surplus items and such other items as may be specifically designated as surplus and authorized to be sold by the supervisor at an online web auction conducted by Absolute Auction Center, 45 South Avenue, Pleasant Valley, New York, at their standard rates, provided that a complete record of the equipment and the results of the auction be maintained. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any questions on this one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Be it resolved that the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does hereby authorize William T. Donahue on behalf of the Hudson Valley Historical Miniatures Guild Scale Modelers Society to post 10 temporary signs 14 days prior to the event on October 21st, 2017 at the Poughkeepsie Elks Club, and to set up 5 directional signs on the day of the event, provided they are not sandwich board signs, with all signs to be retrieved within 1 week following the event. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any question on this one? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes 7-0.
Resolved, the town board, town of Poughkeepsie does hereby accept with regret the retirement of James R. Normandin, water maintenance mechanic with the town of Poughkeepsie Water Department, effective end of the business day, October 27, 2017. So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any question on this one?
How many years have you been with us?
I don't know. It was quite a few. It was more, I know it was more, 15 at least. It's been a while.
Thank him for his service. What a great job.
I agree. Thanks for working with Keith all them years and the fine job he did and dealing with some of the water main breaks over the years. Not an easy job.
Mr.
Resolution.
Stone, I think his letter, you may not have a copy, it said 31 years.
It was that long? I knew it was quite a while. I wasn't gonna make a fake number up. Do we approve that, Felicia?
I'm sorry?
Do we approve that?
Not vote on it
I
yet.
don't think we voted
All
on
in favor?
it yet.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Good luck on your retirement.
Resolution number 13, be resolved, the town board, town of Poughkeepsie does hereby appoint Barbara A. Decker to the position of part-time police assistant with the town of Poughkeepsie Police Department at the grade 6, step 1, salary of $20.64 per hour, effective September 25th, 2017, which appointment is subject to a probationary period of no less than 8 hours, nor more than 26 weeks per civil service law. So moved.
Second.
We have motion and second. Any questions on that one? All I'd like to say is, welcome back. She was a full-timer, retired, and she's coming back for some part-time work to fill in a hole in the police department. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Be it resolved, the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does hereby authorize the deputy supervisor. Is deputy supervisor? We
Change
should.
that to supervisor end before you have to reread it.
All right, we're You get it, Joe? I'm changing it to supervisor. Okay.
Great job.
Yes. To authorize the supervisor to sign a vehicle cleaning agreement with Bartright Enterprises, Inc., DBA, Foam and Wash Car Wash for the entire town police department fleet as required by the town of Poughkeepsie Police Department for the period of January 1st, 2018 through December 31st, 2019. A copy of Chief Spiro's memo along with the proposal is attached, and be further resolved that Bartright Enterprises, Inc., DBA Foam and Wash Car Wash, has proposed to continue to provide service at the rate of $750 per month, and the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie finds that solicitation of alternative proposals for these services would not be in the best interest of the town. So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any questions on this one? I'd just like to Thank the chief for again reaching out to Bayrite. There is no increase, correct? And one of the reasons we have is there's two different car washes on both ends of the town that makes it easier.
That's good, yeah.
All
The
those-
deputy town supervisor can sign too, you know.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Be it resolved, the town board of Town of Poughkeepsie is hereby appoint Taryn Rowley to the full-time position of payroll clerk in the Town of Poughkeepsie Comptroller's Office to CSEA Grade 5, Step 3 salary of $20.64 per hour, effective immediately, which appointment is subject to a probation period of not less than 8, no more than 26 weeks per civil service law. Be it further resolved, the town supervisor is authorized to execute and file all documentation required by the Dutchess County Department of Human Resources in connection with this appointment. So moved.
Second?
We have a motion second. Any questions on this? I have a comment on this. Taryn started just about a year ago as a part-timer in that department, and she's done a phenomenal job. She took her civil service test, and she passed at top of her, one of the top ones in her class. She definitely has reached out and gone above and beyond, and it's a pleasure, I think, to have her here full-time and to fill that spot that's been vacant for a few years. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion opposed, motion passes 7-0.
Whereas the town board has received a communication from the Director of Municipal Development recommended that it change the zoning designation for the property located at 84 through 92 Creek Road, tax parcel number 6162-02735705, from Business Neighborhood BN District to Residence Multifamily R-M District. And whereas a change of zone would involve 5.18 acres, and the action to amend the zoning map is an unlisted action under New York State Environmental Quality Review Act. And whereas the town board has determined that the proposed amendment must be referred to Dutchess County Department of Planning and Economic Development. And whereas the town planning board has already adopted a negative declaration and has issued a positive recommendation at its meeting of June 15, 2017. And whereas amending the zoning map requires a public hearing, now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby sets a public hearing on the proposed amendment for October 18, 2017 at 7 p.m. or as soon thereafter, as the matter may come to be heard in the Town Hall, 101 Rocker Road, Poughkeepsie, New York. And the town board refers this matter to Dutchess County Department of Planning and Economic Development for a recommendation pursuant to GML 239M. And the town board directs the town clerk to notify the surrounding towns of the public hearing pursuant to GML 239NN. So moved.
Second.
We have motion second. Any questions on this one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Okay, do you want me to read this first, or are we going to hear from them, or how do you want to do this?
Your pleasure.
Okay. Resolution 17. Resolution of the Town Board determining that the final environmental impact statement, FEIS, for the Hudson Heritage Project is complete for the purpose of commencing public consideration of the FEIS and instructing town staff to circulate notices of completion and to file copies of the FEIS in accordance with 6 New York CRR Section 617.12. Whereas EFG/DRA Heritage LLC, hereinafter is EFG DRA, is the owner of approximately 156 acre site of the former Hudson River State Hospital on Route 9 in the town of Poughkeepsie site. And whereas the site is located in a historic revitalization development district, HRDD, under the town code of the town of Poughkeepsie, hereinafter town code, and whereas the EFG DRA is proposing various amendments to the HRDD regulations in the town code and proposing to develop the site as a mixed-use, pedestrian-friendly residential and commercial development, collectively the project, and whereas June 5th, 2015, EFG DRA provided the town board with a development master plan application, petition for zoning amendment petition, and a long environmental assessment form, EAF Part 1, citing forth technical details pertaining to the potential environmental impacts of the project, and whereas by resolution adopted July 22nd, 2015, the town board designated itself lead agency for review of the project under the New York State Environmental Equality Review Act, SEQA, pursuant to 6 NYCRR Section 6176, and issued a positive declaration requiring the preparation of an environmental impact statement, EIS, pursuant to 6 NYCRR Section 617.7. And whereas on August 19, 2015, the Town Board held a public scoping session to identify potentially significant adverse environmental impacts related to the project that are to be addressed in the EIS, and thereafter accepted written comment through August 31st, 2015. And whereas the Town Board adopted a final scope in accordance with 6 NYCRR Section 617 Sub 8 on September 16, 2015, and whereas EFG DRA submitted a draft environmental impact statement for the Hudson Heritage Project, DEIS, to the Town Board on October 25, 2016, and whereas the Town Board, after consultation with its staff, independent consultants, and special counsel, determined on November 2, 2016, by the Town Board Resolution 3 of 2016, that the DEIS was adequate with respect to its scope and content for the purposes of commencing public review pursuant to 6 NYCRR Section 6179 Sub A Sub 2. And whereas the Town Board held a duly noticed public hearing on the DEIS December 7, 2016, and formally accepted written comment on the DEIS until 14 days thereafter, although comments were received and accepted from certain interested and involved agencies after the comment period ended in order to accommodate those agencies continuing review of the project. And whereas the EFG DRA submitted a draft final environmental impact statement for the project, FEIS, to town staff on or about March 30, 2017, and whereas town staff, independent consultant, and special counsel reviewed the draft FEIS to determine whether to accept it as complete for the purposes of distributing it to the public, and whereas on or about May 23, 2017, town staff provided EFG DRA with comprehensive comments on the draft FEIS, seeking additional information and various clarifications, and whereas on or about August 27, 2017, EFG DRA submitted a revised draft FEIS to the town which addressed the aforementioned comments, and whereas the Town Board staff, special counsel, have reviewed the latest revised version of the FEIS and are recommending pursuant to 6 NYCRR Section 617(9)A sub 6, and that the Town Board deem this version of the FEIS is as complete, and to direct staff to publish a notice of completion and file the copies of the FEIS pursuant to 6 NYCRR Section 617. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Town Board hereby determines that the information submitted in the FEIS, including all responses to public comment, is complete and adequate, and directs staff to file, publish, and circulate the notice of completion in the FEIS in accordance with the requirement of 6 NYCRR Section 617.9 and 617.12. And the Town Board hereby directs town staff to arrange to, 1, publish the notice of completion as required in the Environmental Notice Bulletin, ENB, and 2, have copies of the FEIS filed with the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation and the Office of the Town Clerk for public review, and 3, have a copy of the FEIS and notice of completion circulated to all involved and interested agencies, and 4, have the FEIS posted on the town's website at http://www.townofpoughkeepsie.com, and so moved.
Second?
Motion is second. Neil, would you like to comment on this before?
Apologies for the lengthy resolution, but it was necessary to try to get as much in. I think it's important to, particularly given the passage of time, sort of remind ourselves of everything that we have done and have accomplished in the past couple of years since the Town Board issued the positive declaration. We've had a lot of work that's been going on. We have representatives from DRA here tonight to answer specific questions, but at its heart, what you're being asked to do tonight is to accept the final EIS as complete. I've reviewed it. Special Counsel David Cooper has reviewed it. We've gone back and forth with Stu Messenger in particular and George Carfagno on some of the responses that were provided in the FEIS, and we're satisfied that we are to the point where the FEIS is ready to be deemed complete. Now, procedurally, this is an important step to get to the end, but it's not the end. What this does, assuming the board adopts the resolution tonight, is that you're essentially allowing the release of the FEIS to the public. It has not been made public to this point, and it won't be until you've acted, because it won't be in its final form until you do. What the secret regulations talk about is, once you accept the final EIS, you go into what I refer to as, you won't see this language in the secret regulations, but essentially it's a quiet period. It's a minimum 10-day period for what secret calls public consideration of the final EIS. It's not deemed, unless the board wishes, as an additional comment period. There are some agencies that use it as an opportunity for additional comment. I think it's a little problematic because you're already at the end. So how do we reply to additional comments that we may already have received on a document that looks pretty complete? So the way that this is set up is that we will go into this minimum 10-day quiet period for public consideration. And what that also means is that I will be working along with David Cooper and representatives from DRA on the finding statement, which we will present to you at it'll be the third Wednesday in October. Is that the 19th or 20th?
18th.
18th, yeah. So we're going to be working on the finding statement. And what that does, adoption of the finding statement, is basically a recitation of everything that the board and the town has done to comply with seeker. Talks about the environmental impacts that were examined, talks about mitigation. So basically it takes all of the document, and we had distributed drafts of the FEIS, and that's just the text. There's several volumes of appendices that we didn't give to you. They're very technical. It's the traffic studies, it's the flora-fauna studies, and some of the other things. All of that will be available for public review once you act tonight, assuming you do. But the finding statement we will give to you in plenty of time for the meeting on October 18th, and that is the culmination of the secret process. And at that point, once you've adopted the finding statement, you are then free to act and approve the master development plan. Once the master development plan has been accepted by the town, approved by the town, then we start the nitty-gritty of the actual site plan process before the planning board. You also, in there, before the October 18th meeting, the planning board still has yet to give you its recommendation on the master development plan. And we have that before the planning board at a special meeting on the 28th. So later this month, they will be making that recommendation. I expect that they will issue a positive recommendation on that plan. So everything is kind of heading to the third Wednesday of October, that the town board's action on this project will be complete. And then everything gets shifted over to the planning board to work out the nuts and bolts of the site plan, pipe sizes, road widths, and things like that. So that's sort of the overview of what you're being asked to do tonight and what the steps yet to be done. If you have specific comments or questions about the project, the FEIS, the folks from the DRA are here as well. So I welcome some questions.
Well, that's the question I was going to ask, that they're going back to the planning board so that the recommendation will come to us again. So that was one of my questions to you. And,
right. Well, so the planning board will take up its recommendation on the development plan. They may have some additional comments for you to consider. And again, it's a recommendation only.
Yeah.
But we wanted to get to this point before we sent that back to the planning board. And just in case the project changes, if there's something comes up tonight and there's a delay, we didn't want to, act precipitously, and then we have to go back yet again to the planning board.
Yeah. Thank you, Neil. Good job.
Anybody else got any questions?
I think you guys have done a really good job. You've worked with us very much, and we've had plenty of meetings, all of us, so good job. I'm happy to see this start to really come to fruition and move forward.
Thank you for your hard work, and thank Neil for his team's work as well.
And I agree, George. I mean, this has been a long process. You're not the first owners of this project. And stay in and hang in with the way the economy had changed. I give you a lot of credit. You've jumped through a lot of hoops. And the fact that we hired an outside agency to help us through this process, I think made it a lot easier most of the time. Sometimes it wasn't always that easy. But I think for the size of the project and the amount of time we did streamline it to get it through. You know, it was thorough, and I give you guys all the patience for hanging in there and working with everybody through this project, because it's not a simple project and it has a lot of different avenues and things to deal with the old buildings and so on, and trying to save what you can. It's not an easy ABC project at all.
In addition, people can't wait to get in on the property and then do some damage.
No, we got a long way to go, but we're getting there.
Yeah, this is a significant step in that direction. Exactly.
Good job. Thank you.
We have a motion, a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes 7-0. Good luck, gentlemen. Looking forward to working with you some more.
Be it resolved that the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does hereby approve the application submitted by Gerard Philippe, and does hereby grant approval to the Cruft Corners Volunteer Fire Company to hold its annual Halloween parade on Saturday, October 28th, 2017 at 12 p.m., which parade will start at Spackenkill Todd Middle School parking lot and proceed south on Cruft Road, west onto Schoolhouse Lane, and end at the Cruft Corners Firehouse at 7 Spackenkill Road. And be it further resolved that the town clerk is in receipt of a certificate of liability insurance naming the town of Poughkeepsie as an additional insured. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion, second. Any questions on this one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes 7-0.
Be resolved, Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie is hereby set the 4th day of October 2017 at 7 p.m. at the Town Hall, Town of Poughkeepsie, 1 Overrocker Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, as and for the date, time, and place of a public hearing to consider and thereafter vote on applications for monies from the County of Dutchess through the Community Development Block Grant Program for the year of 2018, of which the Town of Poughkeepsie is a member. So moved.
Second.
Motion, second. Any questions on this one?
Yeah, who really seconded that? I heard 3 people.
All of us?
Thank you.
Just so everybody knows, Community Block Grant only works through demographics of people's salaries and so on. The whole town is not able to apply or be able to use in that part of the town. So Tom Myring has picked so far, prior to discussion, a park on Overrocker Road to put in for a grant to make a handicap accessible park, which should be a benefit to the town, and it's much needed up on Overrocker Road. And we won't call the county so far, and they're all in favor of what we're going. We try to put it through them first, and they more or less thought it was a great idea, so hopefully Tom will be here when we have the public hearing to discuss it further. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Resolution number 20, be resolved that the Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby award a bid for the Manchester Garden Sewer Manhole Replacement and Stream Relocation 2017. To the low bidder TAM Enterprises at the bid price of $97,365 pursuant to
$356.
$97,356.
Okay.
That's what I said? No? Okay. Sorry. Persuade the recommendation of the town engineer, and before the result, the town supervisor is authorized to execute a contract agreement with TAM Enterprises. So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Be resolved that the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does hereby award the bid for the sanitary sewer pipe cleaning and CCTV inspections fall 2017 to the low bidder American Underground Services at a bid price of $35,310 pursuant to the recommendation of the town engineer, and be further resolved the supervisor is authorized to execute a contract agreement with American Underground Services. So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any questions on this one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Be resolved, the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie has hereby approved the application received from Paul Young Borer to hold a Woodstock Festival fundraiser to benefit Mount Haven Animal Rescue at Paul's Public House located at 2186 New Hackensack Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, on October 7, 2017, from 12 noon to 6 p.m. Be it further resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby approve the application for said event pending receipt of a certificate of liability insurance from the Town of Poughkeepsie as an additional insured. So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second on this. Any questions on this one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby grant special consent to the following items to wit: 1, set date for public hearing, Traffic Sergeant Bruschetti, Town Code Amendment, crosswalk to 51 Fulton Street. 2, authorize Town Clerk Salvatore, Mayor's College Family Weekend Tailgate Party. 3, waive Town Clerk Salvatore 30-day liquor license J. Dominic Trattoria. 4, accept Chief's Bureau resignation of Chris Rolson, Police Officer.
Second.
No,
So moved.
look at the bottom paragraph.
Read them or so
No,
moved.
how about read the bottom and be
Be
it
it further resolved.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. And be it further resolved, that upon the objection of any member of the town board, an item may be removed from this list and voted on separately. So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any questions on this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby set the 4th day of October 2017 at 7 p.m. at the Town Hall, Town of Poughkeepsie, 1 over Rocker Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, as and for the date, time, date, and place of a public hearing to consider amendments to Town Code, Chapter 195, entitled Vehicle and Traffic, specifically 195 sub 47, Schedule 12, entitled Crosswalks, to add a crosswalk at 51 Fulton Street, which amendment would read as follows. Add Section 195 sub 47, Schedule 12, name of street, Fulton Street, location, north-south direction at 51 Fulton Street. And be it further resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does determine that this is a Type 2 action requiring no environmental review. And be it further resolved that said local law, if adopted, shall become effective immediately on filing with the Secretary of State. So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any questions on this one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Whereas the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie has heretofore received an application from Mayor's College for its Family Weekend Tailgate Party event to be held on Saturday, September 23rd, 2017, from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. on the campus grounds. And whereas the presence of food vendors is a vital part of a successful tailgate party, now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does not include the vendors of food participating in the Mayor's College Family Weekend Tailgate Party as peddlers and hawkers, and these vendors are hereby exempt from the provisions of Chapter 151 of the Town Code. And be it further resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby approve this application as submitted for said event to be held on Saturday, September 23rd, 2017. So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any questions on this one?
Isn't there supposed to be something else with food when you have a tailgate? Fun?
This is the
Isn't it fun?
The family weekend.
Family, fun, right, so fun is the other thing, we'll leave it at that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Be resolved, Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie is hereby acknowledge the receipt of a request from the law offices of Lorenzo L. Angelino on behalf of J. Dominic Trattoria, 779 Dutchess Turnpike, Poughkeepsie, New York, for a waiver of the 30-day review period for a liquor license application. And be it further resolved that Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby approve the town clerk's forwarding of a waiver and consent pursuant to the attached request. So moved.
Second?
Motion second. Any questions on this one?
Is this an extension? Are they open?
My guess is that it has changed hands because it is a new liquor license. So we don't do renewals through my office any longer. That's not required by the state, so it does say new liquor, new application. So
But
that is my,
Looks like they're purchasing the property.
yeah,
Yeah.
and keeping the name.
Right.
Good, hopefully it can
Similar.
stay.
Yeah.
Be nice to have a tenant there.
All those in favor?
All right,
aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Good.
Mike, 4.
Be it resolved, Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby accept with regret the resignation of Christopher Rollison, police officer of the Town of Poughkeepsie Police Department, effective September 18, 2017, at 11:59 p.m. So moved.
Second?
Motion second. Any questions on that one?
He wasn't with us all that long, but I do wish him well with whatever endeavor he's going with.
I second that, Mike. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Come to the end of our agenda. Before we suspend the rules, I'd just like to make two comments. Last week, we had a major water main break on Spring Road down on Route 9, and not being an easy break, it was a very large water main, and it turned into a bigger issue than they expected, the water department, and we had no problem whatsoever with the town highway, town sewer department coming out and helping. Arlington Fire District came out and helped them to get some of the water pressure off the line so they could repair it. It was about 8 to 9 feet deep in the ground. I want to thank the councilman from that area that came out that day and also showed support to the crew that was out there. It started, it was like a 15, 16-hour project to get the water main shut off and repaired. And they worked very diligently together, very hard together. And people always say shared services in the town, as big as it is, just shows that the three departments that are separate jumped in to help each other together, because we had to hire outside contractors. This would have been a phenomenal cost for the town, but they went out and they worked as a team, as it should be. I really want to commend that group for being out there, because nobody asked, nobody complained. They just reached out and lent Keith a helping hand going through this project, because it was an extremely difficult water main to hit. It was a 20-inch water main that they were repairing, so it was a major issue, and I want to congratulate them all on the fine job they did repairing that, and shows that it's a town that sometimes can be extremely proud of, and this was definitely a good group of people that did that work out there that day.
Guys did a good job.
And one other announcement is today, as everybody knows, Dutchess County's shared service grants, the last grant was awarded today, and last year in the shared service grant, when we went to get our award for Tyler Communications, I met the mayor of Beacon there, and we were discussing how Dutchess County's Drug Task Force is a great thing. It's phenomenal to have. All the departments work together, throughout the town. But the problem we have is it's only 4 towns that are part of it in the county that we felt that we're putting an officer in there at our cost, which we don't disagree with having a team effort on this. But the problem is we're all paying. And the other towns that don't have a police department weren't paying. And we're also paying for a sheriff's department in our taxes for that. So walking out, me and Randy had a discussion, we have to work on trying to get it so the county will pay. So this year, when we went to Shared Service Summit, we got together and said, how about we put in for a grant for this year? And today we were awarded the grant for the cost of a full police officer to be on that drug task force for this year and next year for the 4 towns involved, us, Poughkeepsie, Beacon, and Fishkill, East Fishkill. So I think it was a big step. And it was a pleasure working with Randy and Anthony and his county department, because Randy said they would spearhead going forth with it. And it was great to do it, great to see the support today. And the chief helped us get a lot of work together. So I want to, again, it shows that it doesn't matter party lines or anything like that. When it comes down to what we think is important for the town and for the county in general, that we all do pitch in and work together. So I just want to make that announcement. It's over $100,000. I haven't given us his exact figure yet. But it's over $100,000 this year that we'll be getting in that shared service grant. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah. With that, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules for any town business at all. Anybody like to discuss?
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anybody to say anything? I know you want to go home, but would you like to say anything? No? Make a motion to resume the rules?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, everybody, and have a great night.